Without a shadow of a doubt, it's the Cronkite Show in social media history. I want to welcome you to another episode of the Warzone. Get on the phone and call somebody and tell them I am the five-star general. Republicans and Democrats work behind the scenes every day together. Well, it's time for y'all to get your in order because this country is a mess. Let's get to it, man. Say, man, I want to welcome you to another episode of the War Zone and tell you thank you for taking the time out to tune in to me. Because without you guys, I would not have a show. I appreciate it. Well, let's get these privacy settings straight right now so that we can get this thing rolling. All right, hold on just a second. Okay, there we go. Change. Okay. I want to say top of the afternoon to you. Top of the afternoon to you. It's another beautiful day in the neighborhood. I'm sitting here and I've been pondering all day long what I would talk about. I'm running a little late tonight because I took a nap. I'm getting up there in age and I needed to take me a nap, and I do that every now and then. But that doesn't stop me from coming on right now so we can have an intimate discussion about what I really want to talk about. And I've been holding this for like 2 days. I had a guy come on my page today because I posted a picture of me and the attorney general and told me, "You just lost me." Fuck you, bye. I don't care. You gonna rock with me, you gonna rock with me. Let me tell you what I'm not gonna do. We'll start it off like this. I'm not gonna try to be your friend because you want me to stay in the Democratic Party. That's not going to happen. So if you can't be my friend, I can play in my sandbox by myself. So if you don't want to be my friend, then you know what you can do. I'm sitting back a couple of days ago and I'm thinking, it's a lot of stuff that's not right. It's a lot of laws that could be changed. It's a lot of laws that could be amended. Because right now, this country is a mess. You got the Republicans blaming it on the Democrats. You got the Democrats blaming it on the Republicans. Everybody got the power between these two groups, but nothing is changing in the favor of the American citizens. Now, I know everybody has an opinion about what needs to be done, but you have to understand the dynamics that you work within. And contrary to popular opinion, there are two major parties, the Republicans and the Democrats. And nothing seems to be getting done. So, a lot of people say, man, you come on and you give the Democrats a lot of hell and you never give the Republicans hell. Well, I'm a guy that likes to be consistent. I like to have consistent thoughts. I like to have consistent conversation. So tonight I'm going to tear all of y'all asses up because that's what needs to be done. Some days you got to check your own people. You got to check your own people. Gun legislation. We keep watching school after school get ran into, teachers being shot, kids being shot and killed. And nobody can seem to come up with any ideas on how you need to deal with this. Now, am I a card carrying member of the NRA? Yes, I am. I believe that you have the right to protect yourself and protect your family, protect your home. Do I believe that there needs to be some changes when it pertains to guns? Yes, there has to be, but that is a deep rooted piece of subject matter. I keep hearing the same thing. We need to get the guns out the hands of the criminals. We need to get the guns. So you got gun problems. You have the everyday shootings, white on white, black on black, whatever you want to call it. And then you have the mass shootings. But then they take both of those, they entwine them, and then they start speaking of AR-15s. Well, most of the mass shootings in schools and in public have been done by semi-automatic rifles, AR-15s. The everyday shootings are being done with AR-15s as well as handguns. And people want something done. Now, those that say, well, I'm comfortable where we are, that's because nothing has happened close enough to you or to your family for you to understand that something has to be done. Something has to be done. 5-star, how do you feel? You're running for office. How do you feel about gun legislation? I believe that a kid that can't buy a beer until he's 21 years old should not be allowed to purchase a firearm until they're 21 years old. If you want to fix a problem, you look at the root cause of it. You treat that problem like it's cancer. One, you diagnose it. Two, you expose it. And three, you treat it. You treat a problem like cancer. So if you know part of the problem is the age at which some of these people can purchase these guns, and they're 18, 19 years old, it makes sense to fix that problem. Well, it's been, you've diagnosed it, you've exposed it. Now you have to treat it. I'm not saying take the rights away from people from having guns. I believe you should have any gun you want. That's your business. But the same people that you're lobbying to change the laws are the same people that change the laws for this to be able to happen. So do you think, what do you guys think should be the legal age to purchase a gun in the United States of America? What should be the legal age to purchase a gun in the United States of America? Don't be afraid to answer if you're a Republican or a Democrat. Because if you don't get to the root cause, you can't fix it. Now, Thunder says something very profound. And I've said this before. 18-year-old person can die in defense of their country, but they can buy a gun, but they can't buy a gun and a beer. So this same 18-year-old kid can go to the military and pick up a gun and go to other countries and supposedly defend us. And they may have to kill people at 18 years of age. But is it a real issue with good people being able to purchase guns at the age of 18? You can get a driver's license at a younger age. You can go to the nightclubs. You just can't drink at 18 years of age. But does there need to be gun legislation? I think there needs to be. But I think what the problem is that we don't realize some days is the games that politicians play. It's the games that politicians play. Whether you want to accept it or not, your card carrying Democrats kick it with my Republicans on a daily basis. Behind our backs, a lot of them are in bed together. And then when they come out the back room with the dealings and all the stuff that they do, they make it look a certain way. Now, while they're playing politics, we're living real life. We're dealing with the fact that some of these people on the street shouldn't have firearms. We're dealing with the fact that the court system is backed up, so those that legally can't have firearms because they probably went to jail or something, they still have access to them. The court system is backed up, so therefore they either get out on bail or they get out on a real cheap bail and they're back in the streets wreaking havoc. See, there's no accountability. So where's the legislation to create or add additional accountability to people that violate these gun laws? Why are these people in the back room, Republicans and Democrats, playing a game that they think some of us don't know about? There's so many twists to the game that you would never understand it. Like a lot of y'all really fell for the gun legislation in Texas or lack of gun legislation in the state of Texas. You fell for the Democrats getting on planes and leaving the state for over a month, running off to Washington because they were trying to protect your voter rights. But prior to that bill coming up, that gun law bill, permitless carry, was on the table. The Democrats didn't make a stink about it. And unless a lot of us really pushed the buck on it, you'd have never knew about it. So my question is why? Why didn't they walk out on the gun bill? Because really, they wanted it permitless carry just as much as everybody else. But then they could use it as a talking point when the elections came around to make it look like the Republicans demonized the state of Texas and they made the state of Texas unsafe. That bill has not made the state of Texas unsafe. The state of Texas was unsafe before that bill even came about. Regardless if you got a permit or not, how many criminals do you guys know that have a permit for a gun? How many ex-felons that shouldn't have guns do you guys know have access to guns? So that bill has not made it unsafe. And those that are beating the drum are beating the drum to drum up support so that they can trick you into voting for who they want you to vote for. On any type of legislation, not just gun legislation, you Republicans and Democrats need to get your shit together. You need to get your shit together for a lot of reasons, man. See, let me tell you something. Fahrenheit 9/11, the movie that was done by Michael Moore. Go and watch that movie. And I want you to tell me whether they're Republican or Democrats. How many U.S. Congress people, children, have actually fought in the war that's depicted inside of that movie? And that's a real adaptation of what we were going through at the time with 9/11. See how many of their children actually go into combat. And then I want you to think about how many people you know as friends, or how many people in your family, children, serve in the military. See, your children are good enough to die for this country, but theirs are not. They're not going to risk their children. But everybody loves the good old US of A. Everybody loves the good old US of A. But yet your children can be the pawns, but not their children. You need to watch these people. Now, am I sure that Republicans and Democrats work together? Yes. Let's go to the Democratic side. Let's go to the Democratic side. Joe Manchin is the best thing that ever happened to the Republican Party in the last 2 years. He's a Democrat, but we appreciate his efforts because Joe operates like us. Every time there's something that needs to get pushed through, their own party member sabotages them. So we appreciate him. We appreciate him. See, Freddie Salazar, I like your comment. Freddie says it's the establishment and Trump was exposing both sides. And that's why they demonized him. Trump was really draining the swamp. A lot of them, not all of them, are in bed together. And this is why you can't get anything done. You can't. And it just goes back and forth. The pendulum swings back and forth, back and forth. Who's ever in control is going to pass something to make themselves look good. And it's all about getting people to vote for them to put them back in office. There really needs to be term limits across the board because these people are not accomplishing the goal. Legislation needs to be changed on a lot of levels. It needs to be changed on a lot of levels. I will say this, that voter fraud, let's go down. For many years, voter fraud has been prominent on both sides of the house. But a lot of Republicans never had a problem with voter fraud when they benefited from it, and it did not affect them. Saul Gillespie asked me, no disrespect, but the bottom line is, do you want democracy or not? I think that you have to accept the realization that they are destroying democracy on a daily basis. It ain't what I want. It ain't nothing about what I actually want. Because what I want, I'll never get. When you say democracy, define democracy. Because we live in a country where we're separate but considered equal. Don't give me the diversity word. Don't give me the inclusion word. We live in a country where we are separate but equal. It's obvious that we are. Because if we were equal, all communities would be nice and beautiful. If we were equal, a certain race of people wouldn't be treated indifferently by law enforcement. So explain to me, what is democracy? How do we achieve democracy when we keep putting the same failed politicians back in office? You're not going to achieve democracy putting the same people back in office that failed you for the last couple of years. It does not work like that in the real world. So, Saul, I want democracy, but I know with the people that's representing us right now, we will not achieve the goal. I've accepted the fact that we are one of the most poorly ran countries in America. I mean, in the world. In the world. We are just totally behind on everything. There's no reason that upper level education should not be free like other countries. There is no reason that healthcare should not be free to all Americans in this country. There is no reason that the quality of life for these same veterans that we talked about earlier is below standards, but we want democracy. My question is, how do you achieve it when you know for a fact that some people ain't good? How do we achieve democracy when folks like, on the Democratic side, Rodney Ellis should not be in office anymore? On the Republican side, Ted Cruz needs to go away too. How do you achieve democracy when we don't want to be honest about who needs to go? Now, if you got rid of Ted, and I'm just using them as examples, you got rid of Sheila, could we fill those seats with qualified people? Hell yeah. One of the most failed Republican politicians to me, and he's a U.S. combat veteran. is Dan Crenshaw. Dan, my Republican brother, you full of shit when it comes to veterans. You ain't doing nothing to help your fellow veterans. But Dan, you were injured in combat. You are set for life. You get a pension, all of this. See, whether y'all know it or not, once these people, especially in the Texas state legislation, do a certain amount of years, they get a pension for the rest of their lives. So if you can get that money for the rest of your life, then why are you still fighting to stay in office and you're not making any viable changes? And the United States of America is hurting across the board. We're hurting across the board. You're telling me that we don't need to do something. Hold on. You're telling me we don't need to do something to protect our schools? Look at what happened in Uvalde. The police will run up on you in a heartbeat like they gang beaters, man. Like they world beaters. But you wouldn't run up on that kid in that school to save those children. So the only way that we can deal with that is we have to change the rules of engagement. For every Democrat that should come out of office, there's a Republican counterpart that should come out too. Because y'all in bed together. You got us out here fighting each other on Republican and Democrat. You got us fighting about Trump, Republican and Democrat. And you people are behind the scenes drinking Miller Lights and cocktails together. So when you think about it like that, who's really boo-boo the fool? Us. Let me talk about this because I heard about it. Cedric Lewis says the officer that stopped and put the hand sanitizer has to be one of the biggest jokes in the United States in U.S. history. I would say that I agree to a certain degree, but you also have to understand that if there were certain laws in place, because the laws that are in place right now means that you can't do anything to those cops that did not save those children. You can't do anything to them. The most that you can do is fire them. But who cares about them being fired at this point when you got these babies that have been murdered? So there has to be laws and legislation that's changed. There has to be laws and legislations that has to change. Have you ever been to the state capitol in your state when your legislation goes into session? Have you ever been in those buildings? I've been to the state capitol several times. I've spoken at the state capitol. And from what I understand, coming out of the audience to speak, I'm the only man that some people have ever seen that's got a standing ovation. That doesn't happen. You know why? Because I'm going to keep it 100. I don't give a damn if you're a Republican or a Democrat. I'm checking your ass. I'm holding you accountable because your lack of action affects me. Hold on a second. Their lack of being able to do anything has been on display to the highest degree with Uvalde. You can have all the goddamn emergency sessions that you want to have. But unless you gonna come to the table from a bipartisan standpoint, step up to the table and do what's right, this ain't your last school shooting. You have school districts that have done nothing to make sure that these buildings are safe this year. And the only thing they give a damn about is sending them kids back into them unsafe buildings. That's why I'm on my rant tonight. The hell with any Republican or any Democrat that does not want to make our school buildings safe. HISD is a prime example. Cy-Fair, Klein, Katy, Fort Bend. You got more police officers at a school board meeting to keep irate parents in line than you have protecting our children on a daily basis. There should be legislation put in place that mandates that our children should be in a safe environment. Our teachers, our administrators, our paraprofessionals should be in a safe environment. Curtis Chavez says, do you ever feel like Alice, falling down a hole and finding out just how far down the rabbit hole goes? And all the while, these idiots are calling you the hater. Arnetta Murray says, you're right. P.I. Hill, my good friend, says each child has a bounty on their head and they don't care about learning and being safe. Cedric Lewis wasted about $1 million in CSISD to put new windows and a hallway in the kindergarten wing in the school, not one dime towards security. Arnetta says yes, and she also says a safe environment. Scared kids can't learn. Scared teachers can't teach. But do you give a damn about your child? How dare you, as a goddamn parent, not stand on 10 toes and demand that the building that your child goes into be safe across the board? I'll be damned. Is there a way to deal with that? Having conversations. It's a grand opportunity to put our veterans to work and value their expertise in proper security and handling firearms. Why don't we contract our veterans to help add additional security to our schools? dare you as a parent? Don't demand that your school, that your child goes to, that your tax money goes to, be a safe environment. I dare you not stand up. But when you have to bury your child, God forbid, like those people in Uvalde, it's too late to stand up. It's too late. You get to pick the casket. You get to go and cut their hair or fix their hair one last time. Because you failed as a parent when it was time for you to hold your elected officials accountable who could create the laws and the legislation to make that building safe. And now you get to put your kid in one last outfit, a body bag. That's how your child will come out of some of these buildings. But Uvalde, according to Arnetta, let me put her comment up. She said, Uvalde, the pain they are experiencing is unimaginable. Uvalde never had to happen. Santa Fe had already happened. Parkland had already happened. Sandy Hooks had already happened. Uvalde never had to happen. But see, you politicians are so gung-ho and caught up on what you do with your partying and your backroom deals and all that shit. That you always thinking it ain't gonna happen to your schools and your community. Well, I came here tonight to tell you there's a great possibility that it will. We don't know when, we don't know where, but if you think this will not happen again, you are crazy. There has been no accountability. You vowed this should have never happened. It should have never happened. Is there a way to make the schools safer? There's always a way. They make the school board meeting safe. They make commissioners court safe. You can't get into commissioners court unless you go through a metal detector. You can't get in commissioners court or city council unless you present your ID. And more importantly, if you've been to Houston City Council meeting, there's more than enough cops in there. But we ain't never got enough cops in our schools. We ain't never got enough of nothing in our schools. But bring your behind into a school board meeting and say the wrong thing and watch how many cops pop up out the ground like groundhogs. But ain't enough cops on our school campuses. And you tell me that the safest place they can be is at schools. I love my friend Harold Dutton to death. He's a state representative. Got a lot of respect for Mr. Dutton. And the other day he said that the safest place for a child is at school. I disagree. Right now in 2002, on July 20th, 2022, I disagree. Because there's nothing that has been done to give you a full-fledged guarantee that your child will not leave that school in a body bag. And unless you can really give me that reassurance, I don't agree with my good friend Harold Dutton. Are we more concerned with average daily attendance than we are with the safety of the kids? Are we more concerned with the funding that comes from the average daily attendance than we are with the safety of the kids? Are we more concerned with state mandated tests that don't count for jack shit than we are with the safety of the kids? See, they're not concerned with the safety of your child because they don't love your child. You protect what you love. They don't give a damn about your child. You have to give a damn about your child. And that's why it's time for some of you Republicans and some of you Democrats that have been sitting on your damn hands to come out these seats. Because if you can't come up with viable solutions or new laws to make sure that the United States of America becomes the safest country in the world, then you have no use to us sitting in public office. Anna Marie. Exactly. I used to be a hardcore cop hater, seeing all these cop killings and injustice towards Black lives on social media. And then last year I moved to Houston, and my daughter and a Black unborn baby is killed by a Black life because he was fleeing from another Black man, shaking my head, shaking my fucking head. There's no outrage for these kinds of killings, and I will never vote Democratic again. Cedric Lewis, his comment. When they start body bagging the school board members' kids and the superintendent's kids, they gonna start passing all kinds of laws. I would have to agree with you. P.I. Hill says this corporation allows the corruption. I want to leave that comment up. When there's a lack of movement and there's massive corruption as it pertains to doing things to make sure that we are safe and we are sound, P.I. Hill's comment is 100% valid. Curtis Chavez. And then when parents try to make a stand, the FBI is weaponized against us. Why haven't every parent shown up in force to fight for school safety? Shh. Because they have no balls. And they have a vision of burying their children. See, when you don't stand up, the law average catches up with you. It catches up with you. At this moment, I'm sorry if you're uncomfortable. There should be metal detectors in the schools. I'm sorry if you're uncomfortable, but if you're not going to protect these teachers, then they should be able to do what they need to do to protect themselves. Teachers go to school to teach. They don't go to school to be security officers, but a teacher needs to be able to go home at the end of the day like everybody else. They need to be able to go home at the end of the day, just like everybody else. When you go to these alternative schools, they have metal detectors. Ain't nobody shooting up no goddamn alternative schools. They shooting up regular schools. So what should the metal detectors be? The school district police chief in Uvalde, they're recommending that he be fired. And guess what? If he's smart, he'll retire before they fire him. And that way he gets to keep his pension. Don't be surprised if that happens, because there's ways around all of it. And they are going to protect their friends with everything in their power. So when you look at a rural community like Uvalde, Texas, that's predominantly Republican. They will protect who they need to protect. And the rest of us are going to spend the bulk of our days fighting against each other for people that drink cocktails together on a daily. You have to start thinking. Now, whether you increase the number of officers on a campus, whether you add metal detectors, whether you allow teachers to have guns on campuses, you got to do something. So what's the plan? Y'all want to be the smartest motherfucker walking around the state of Texas with your fancy ass dresses on and your three-piece suits. And right now, you motherfuckers can't come up with no solutions. Republicans or Democrats. My question to you is, what the fuck did we vote you in for? You're supposed to be the decision makers. You're supposed to be the policy makers. God damn it, do something. Do something other than rogue ass contracts where you making money off of them. Do something other than schemes and plots. And what are you going to do to protect these schools with less than a month left before they go back in? You know what's amazing? That a lot of people put all their trust in these politicians because they know what to do. You got to listen to them. These motherfuckers were just like me and you before they ran for office. Regular people. Who's to say that they were smart when they were regular people? I can't say that because I know a bunch of them as dumb as a bag of rocks. But at this point, can you show us the plan? Can you show us how you're going to make sure that my good friend Arnetta Murray makes it home every day? Can you show us the plan? She's a school teacher. Can you show me the plan? If you can't show me the plan and your ass on that goddamn election ticket in November, it's time for you to go. It's time for you to go. What is the solution? I don't want to hear the bullshit promises. I don't want to hear none of that. I want to see you put some gates around these schools. I want to see, make sure that every school has entry points where you have to be buzzed in. I want to see more cameras on our campuses. And you have to come up with a better system to be able, contrary to popular opinion, if there's a shooter on the campus, why in the fuck you ain't got an exit plan? You got a plan for a fucking fire drill. When the shit start burning up in the kitchen, you get the kids out the schools. But when there's a mass shooting, you make them hide under the desks. What's the exit plan? Mr. Republican, Mr. Democrat, what's the fucking exit plan? And you know why you do them bullshit fire drills? Because that's state law. So where are the laws that are in place to protect our children? I think you need some breakaway fucking windows. It's hard to hit a moving target some days. What I mean by that is, Motherfucker shooting. Let me show you something, man. I got a job at a taco cabana. They told me you come to training on Tuesday. Tuesday morning, be there at 7 o'clock. The real story. And I went there at 7 o'clock and I was training. It was in my younger days. I was training. And the lady said, go on to take your 15-minute break. So I got, out the back and went stood in the line. I'm finna buy me some tacos. And in ran 3 dudes with shotguns. They say, everybody to the back. True story. As we are walking to the back, I see the back door open. And guess what Gary Monroe did? I didn't have a hurt knee then. I hit that motherfucking back door, jumped that goddamn ditch, and got the fuck away from Taco Cabana. So what's the exit plan when it pertains to these schools? The fuck you gonna tell a kid get up under a table? You a sitting duck. And please do something with these coward ass police officers. You'll mess over us on a traffic stop. But an active shooter, you putting sanitizer on your fucking hand? Are we serious? Do something with these coward ass cops. I'm just telling you the real of how I feel. You got an exit plan when there's a fire. You do fire drills. But we don't have an exit plan when there's an active shooter. In November, you have to make some choices. Whether Republican or Democrat, you have to make some choices. There are some Democrats that need to go. There are some Republicans that need to go. But we need some people in office that want to make some tough decisions. Anna Marie Rodriguez says they don't want to use any funds to protect our kids because they want it for themselves. Too many corrupt leaders in office. And Saul says that's right. You have some tough decisions to make in November. But if some of the same people are sitting in office after those November elections, stop bitching and complaining about the way things are. You can't get change unless you change some of these people. They're not there for our children. They're not there for us. This country is in perils right now because the lack of leadership, contrary to popular opinion. So just vote red or vote blue or whatever, man. Better use your goddamn head before you be burying your child or you be burying your wife. You feel me? It's always an honor and a pleasure to be able to come and talk to you on a nightly basis. And I do it. And honestly, because I had taken a nap, I wasn't going to do a show tonight. But my heart wouldn't let me rest because I knew this the show that I wanted to do. I may not come across as the most articulate person some days, but I am very articulate. I'm very educated. As a politician, I don't cut corners if I get in office. I'm not playing the game. I'm not going to make the money. I'm going to do the work because there's enough money that's been made. And what I always tell politicians is this: money come with the game you play. The money gonna follow you into office. So still just go do the damn work. Let's pray for Uvalde. Let's still pray for Sandy Hook. Let's pray for Santa Fe. Because these people's lives have forever been altered because of what happened. You feel me? Love you to death. But I will say this, that a lot of you failed politicians have to go. You know why? Like my mama would say, because you ain't worth a shit. Say it's a reason that I'm the best in the business. Every night, Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter, get on the phone and call somebody and tell them that I am the 5-star general, House District 131, Texas state legislation is what I'm running for. I'm no nonsense now, and I'm gonna be no nonsense when I take my seat. Trust me, there's some work gonna get done when I show up at Austin. Until tomorrow night, I'll holler at you.